Good evening. My name is Tejas Trivedi, and for the next few minutes, we're going to explore a fun and familiar topic in regards to my data analysis class that I call serial correlation. So what I'm gonna share is this project is a multivariate data set. It's consisting of 77 commonly available breakfast cereals based on information on the FDA label. Some of the common questions that we're going to explore and get to is what do you get when you have a bowl of cereal? What are the possible correlations between calories, sugars, protein, carbs, and consumer ratings? Can one get a lot of fiber without a lot of calories? What are the certain cereals in terms of shelf levels that are present from the bottom, the middle, and the top from a marketing perspective as well? Some of the familiar manufacturers that we're going to explore in this are have acronyms for A for the American home food products, G for General Mills, K for Kellogg's, N for Nabisco, P for Post, Q for Quaker Oats, and all R for Ralston Purina, which is now known as Nestle. The data set itself has 16 columns where it's going to have the name, the manufacturer, the type, and calories and protein as well, along with 77 rows of different brands. It's already in a CSV format because that is the most streamlined. It has been cleaned up, so some of the decimal points and things like that to transition on a pivot table that we're going to explore has already been, as I mentioned, cleaned. This was collected in 1993 by by a few researchers by the name of Eisenberg, Dragovich, and Johnson at Carnegie Mellon. So if we're going to look at the data sets itself, as I mentioned up top, you're going to have everything from the name, the manufacturer, the type, the calories, the protein, the sodium fibers, all the way to the rating at the very end. And this is all the 77 different variables that I have that we've been looking at. Some of the things that I've looked at and explored would be, based on the manufacturers, we've explored the average calories per manufacturer, and it looks like the Nestle family has it's in this case has the highest average calories, and then the Nabisco on the opposite side has the lowest average calories as well. And then and you can see that based on the chart as well in a descending order, which shows us what they are. We can explore the same set in protein, but instead of average, now we can look at the sum of the protein, whereas the Kellogg's brand happens to have, and its family of cereals will happen to have a lot of protein based on this data set. And on the opposite spectrum, where the American Home Foods and the Nabisco brands are towards the latter end of this as well. When we look at these this data, a lot of this is going to be in grams, right? So when we're looking at the sum of fat, it's, whether we're looking at General Mills on the higher end has 30 grams of fat and a nice linear presentation and chart, where I've created some pivot tables to illustrate this. And the Nabisco family has some of the lowest sum of fats as well, with a linear line going across the chart to show that on the graph as well. And it has some numerical value. If I were to hover over it, that it kind of tells us in addition to it. Now I wanted to compare more than one variable, where I wanted to look at the sum of the sodium, and I wanted to look at the sum of fiber in a different format and different charts. And it goes to show you as well where they are, and the metrics as well that are there, where as a General Mills brand will have the highest amount of sodium and the highest amount and one of the highest amounts of fiber as well, along with the Kellogg's brands as well. So there's a good mix in terms of that. And then this is the one that where most of us look at together, where it's the carbs and the sugars, because in the world where we live in, it's one of the more frequently emphasized topics, where you can look at the sum of carbs and the sum of sugars, where you'll see the Kellogg's brand and the General Mills brands are usually star-studded, where you'll have some of their common variables, where you'll have the sweet sugar cereals as well, whereas some of the whole wheat and things like that brands will that are associated with American whole food products are going to be very, very low. And you can see that in a nice graph that I've done based on the pivot charts as well. And I've done the sum of vitamins, where it's coming up where you can see that in a nice pie chart and the representation in a nice representation as well. Now I was able to bring back the average rating in terms of consumers, and it looks like the Nabisco family has the highest rating. And there's a donut chart with it, along with a pie chart that's very interactive. Where if I were to expand this, we'll see that not only are these the brands with it, but it kind of reflects directly into the chart and it kind of goes back as well, right? And I can do that in any which way where I can, as we mentioned, Nabisco's on the higher side in terms of the average rating. And if we go towards the Nestle or the Ralston Purina brand on the lower side, you can see some of their products as well and how it differentiates with the graphs, and the data moves appropriately. The shelf life on this is going to be unique because if you go from the shelf from the bottom to the top, it's on a marketing perspective, it seems like a lot of the healthier cereals are always towards the bottom because we're going to be if we're standing up, it's going to be eye level, where it's some of the more brighter, more colorful, and not necessarily the healthiest types as well that show up there. So it's a nice little twist in the data that I was able to explore from a marketing perspective, and see that as well. And then if I wanted to bring a lot of this together, I can see it based on the manufacturer. I can explore particular data where I wanted to say, go into this brand and I can say, hey, this is a Mapo, and it still has all the factors across the brand with the sum of ratings as well. And then in summation, where all the charts that we've explored, there is a dashboard that I've put together that brings all the charts, and we can look at it by an average calories, a protein, a fat, even the ratings, carbs, sugars, sodium, and fiber across the board with this as well. So it gives you a nice perspective, bring it all together. It's a great way to analyze the data and explore some of this in a fun and known and a knowing variable that we got that almost all of us have visibility to as well. So it was challenging yet rewarding as well. So I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes to explore this and taking the time out for me to share this as well. Thanks.